Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to the 5 a.m. Mester Scrum Show. I am Greg Mester, Scrum Master, and Scrum Master and Agile Coach. Anyway, I want to talk about. I was reading John Maxwell's High Road Leadership book, part of my reading 10 pages a day, as part of. I graduated from the 67-day challenge on my book reading because I'm way past 67 days now, and I do it every day. But I wanted to share. There's something about what HR can do to help build a culture of learning in the facility, right? And I want to talk a little the next step and what we could do. And here, and I want to read. I'll read the quote. So the quote is become a part of a learning culture. An environment that values learning invites people to acknowledge what they don't know, test ideas, challenge assumptions, and make mistakes. And this is what we talk about. And this is the John Maxwell High Road Leadership book. This is what we talk about in Agile and Scrum all the time. But I see so many teams who don't do it. They call that HR, administrative parts. And I think these leaders and these teams are missing the bigger picture. So I'm going to dive in that today. And I think HR can play a really valuable role in making these learning cultures occur. So we're going to talk about that today on our show. And here we talk about Scrum and Agile in a very practical and tactical way. So we can bring more value to the customer without working so hard to bring that value to the customer and have a little fun along the way. And I see Scrum teams, managers, Scrum masters, Agile coaches not utilize the organization, the company. What's there? HR is there. Now, some could say HR's job is to hire and fire people, right? Basic stuff, do your vacation planning and stuff like that. But I would also challenge, is HR being graded on the number of people they hire and fire? And is that really because of growth in the company? Or is that because we can't keep people on our teams? Good question, good debate. Those are debates you think you can have metrics like Metric Mondays to measure how many people we hire and how many we fire. But is that because we're growing, we're hiring more people, or are we going down and we're firing more people? Or is it because we just can't keep people on our teams? Either one of those three is a bad way. So let's talk about the culture of learning, because one of the things a lot of studies say, people like to learn. When they stop learning, no matter who the managers are and how tough it is to work there, they start looking for other jobs. So let's work together to build an agile thought process where we are building a culture of learning in our teams. And Scrum Masters, you all don't do a good job of doing this. You just say, oh, it's an HR thing. Oh, you have to go take this class, all that. So let's talk about that a little. So what do HR do? So HR is really good at acquiring courses, online stuff, building up class stuff that people can take advantage of. Great. But they usually stop there. My challenge to HR is to reach out to line managers, supervisors, whoever, Scrum teams, Scrum masters. You know who they are. They're in your database, right? And offer them a challenge. How in your backlog that you plan for each sprint are you putting in educational activities, right? Learnings, taking classes, challenging, as the quote says. And I'll just reread the quote real quick. An environment that values learning invites people to acknowledge what they don't know, test ideas, challenge assumptions, and make mistakes, right? Because if you're in a culture of learning, a culture of growing, those all are going to happen. If you're not in that, everyone's going to be afraid to make mistakes. They're going to be afraid to try things. They're going to be afraid to test things, and you're just going to be status quo. You're not going to get your 10% growth in your company. You're not going to get that leap bound, that 2x, that 10x in your organization that every organization dreams of, right? So how do they do it? One of the things they could do is challenge Scrum teams. And when I coach my team, when I Scrum Master for a specific team, and when I coach, because when I coach, I can only advise and I don't tell, but sometimes I try. but I don't really get into the point where I push it, because you have to convince the management and everything what a culture of learning will value them as a manager. Maybe less hiring, less paperwork. So what the HR can do is help facilitate the idea of a learning culture in the teams in the organization. They can reach out to managers and educate them on what's there, what's available, right? Not only what's available in the catalog that they created, but challenge Scrum Master and say, hey, can you put a story in there? And people will debate. Story is all about producing a product and things like that. I'd actually challenge that. We use things like Jira and Rally and all these other systems out there, Trello, whatever you want to use to track work. It's tracking work. It's not a value thing. It's not a point thing. It's not money thing. So we want to track all the work so we don't overcommit to what we're doing and get nothing done, right? So my challenge would be, if I was HR, I'd go to these teams and say, okay, do you have a story or a task or something like that that's in your backlog that relates to learning activities, training, taking a class, reading a book, experimenting, trying a new language, try AI, anything like that? Are you tracking that? Well, the answer is no. Then can I help you do that? Can we come up, because we want to measure how much learning is a part of what we do just as much as coding every day is, right? It should be part of that value, because then when you're allowed to learn and grow, like, I don't know something, so I'm going to take the time to learn it. I don't know how to program it this way. I don't know how AI works. So maybe I'll take a session or a point and say, every sprint, I'm going to go learn something every sprint, like a story. Give it points too, by the way. Don't just not point it. It needs points, okay? Because it takes effort and time. Maybe it's a one-pointer, but it should be in there. And you can debate with me all you want, but it really should, right? 0-point stories don't matter, okay? They don't count. If you don't use pointing, then don't ask me about the pointing thing. Just put it in your backlog, right? And some people will debate on what should be in the backlog. It should be. So in there, you can make them a label, you can tag it, you can do all kinds of things that says learning culture, right? You don't have to big all those words. You can do LC for learning culture or something like that. To abbreviate a note that now HR can say, hey, we would like to track this. Now, sometimes, like, oh, we got to measure this. Sometimes, because HR is tracking stuff, this can go into the annual appraisal of employees, especially managers. How much learning activities? Yeah, we talk about OKRs, and we want to do this, and we want to learn that, and we want to be a better educated team, and we want to try stuff. But how is it getting measured, and how is that reflecting into the yearly evaluation process? Though I think it should be more than yearly, but overall yearly is what they do. They do a 6-month and maybe a yearly assessment of how you're doing. If your team doesn't have these cultural activities, and not that they took a class, but there's space in their backlog for each and every sprint to do this work, then do they get a bonus check? Right? Is that a thing you can measure and reflect? And then the question, did they do it? Right? So the beauty of these Jiras and Rallies and Trello and all these other systems that are out there is that you can track that it's actually in the backlog, and did they accomplish that, right? And then part of that, maybe they take one of your online courses or something like that you offer as your catalog. Fine, it's perfect, but it should be part of the backlog. So now HR does a couple of things. They develop a metric to measure how the teams and organizations are becoming a culture of learning, right? You can track this data. It's not a fluff type data. It's not a subjective data. You can actually objectively say they have a story or a task in their backlog that says learning activity or learning, whatever you want to call it, right? You can, like I said, you can say LC, and you can track how much of those that are in the backlog did they actually get done. And I recommend this because we're trying to build bigger, faster, stronger teams, bigger, faster, stronger companies. We do this by setting up a learning culture, a culture of learning, and that allows us to fail because we don't want to learn until we acknowledge we can't do something. Once you acknowledge you can't do something, you need to learn about it so you can do it, right? And that's the idea because we want to grow. Like maybe your competition does something. Well, how they do that? I need to learn what they did. Oh, they're using AI. Well, we need to learn how to use AI. So that there needs to be stories in there for everyone on the team to learn how to use these new tools and techniques. So that I wanted to share with you something to encourage HR to get involved with the teams, encourage Scrum Masters to jointly work with HR and managers to come up with criteria for evaluating your progress, right? How they want to give you bonuses, right? If you don't do any learning activities at all during the year, you do it the last minute. Do I really want to give you a bonus, right? Because we want to establish this capability because it helps us retain people. So I wanted to share it with you. I learned that it's a good book, High Road Leadership. I highly recommend it for Scrum Masters and Agile coaches, leaders, supervisors, anybody in elite, anybody actually, because it talks about the next level if you want to get there. So with that, I want to wish you the best. I want to wish you a happy Scrumming. Oh, we did by the way, the 67-day challenge got a little famous up there in Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, PA, because I did a live broadcast live on television at 3:00 yesterday. It's up in Google. If you type my name, you type Greg Mester, it should pop up in the news feed as one of those items. And the Google results for news. You can see the video. I have to figure out how I'm going to put it and encourage it in the social media because the social media doesn't like it when you do outside links. So I don't know how I'm going to do that yet. With that, I want to wish you the best of luck. Join our mailing list. Get on board. If you need any help, be more than happy to help you. Plus, you get a copy of the book that I shared with everyone on the show. And if you look around, you can get a discounted soft copy. I think for that show, I'm offering a $10 discount off the price of a paperback copy of the book. Feel free. Take advantage of it. With that, I say, have a great day. Happy Scrumming. See you next time and take care. Hope you're doing well on your 67-day challenges out there. Send me a note. Let me know. All right. Bye.